Attachment styles are complete BS. And in this video, I'm gonna show you why identifying with your attachment style is not only harmful to your relationship, but is a fortune teller destiny towards devastation in every relationship you get in. Let's start with a story. Back in 1969, Canadian psychologist Mary Ainsworth locked little children in a room with a stranger to see how they would react when their mothers abandoned them. During the separation process and upon their mother's return, she noticed 4 distinct reactions to this micro trauma. Children either got really upset and then soothed upon the mother's return, which is a secure attachment style. Number 2, the child also got upset when the mother left, but upon her return, the child still was upset, couldn't be soothed, and sometimes got worse. Number 3, when the mother leave, the child couldn't even give a damn or even notice that the mother left, and when she returned, the same thing happened. It was just like, I'm too aloof, I don't care. Or number 4, the child was completely disorganized, was soothed when the mother left, and they got anxious when the mom returned. There was just no predictable pattern among this 4th one. These are the 4 attachment styles, and without getting too academic on you, your attachment style is the way you go about regulating your emotions to get your needs met in a close relationship. You know those moments when you were a kid in the grocery aisle, all these adults walking around, and then your mother walks off into the wrong aisle, and you lose her, and you're freaking out, you're thinking you're gonna die, you're never gonna find your mom again, and you're just gonna be homeless for the rest of your life. Well, how are you gonna survive? Well, you can kind of tell which attachment style I was growing up because that was my train of thought. But depending on how you responded in those moments upon childhood, that can also show you how you respond as an adult in adult relationships. So if you're an avoidantly attached individual in current romantic relationships, you often feel smothered. When the person wants closeness, you just want space. When they're trying to fix the problem, they're nagging, they're criticizing, you just want to be left in peace. And people are oftentimes too needy. Why can't they just deal with themselves? They're so needy. That's your overall train of thought as an adult. For the anxious types in the adult relationships, when your wife or girlfriend doesn't text you back, your mind immediately jumps to, she must be seeing another guy. Wait, why is she not talking as much as she used to? I don't understand. Like, is she pulling away? Is she gonna leave me? Like, who is this other guy? You automatically assume that she's probably cheating on you. And I'm gonna show you later on with my personal story in relationships how this really hurt me and caused just a repeated cycle of devastation in every relationship I was in. Then there's secure attachment, which, let's be honest, if you're watching this video, you're probably not the lucky 33% of people that are securely attached. So we'll ignore those, perfect goody two-shoe role model people for now. These people as adults, they easily get their needs met and they can express their boundaries and regulate their emotions and they have a solid sense of self-worth. Goody two-shoes, man, I swear. I'm gonna help you get there by the end of the video. So why is it so damaging to identify yourself with one of these attachment styles? Well, like most things in academic psychology, a few people read a bunch of articles online or they find this and they say, that makes sense, that's who I am. I wanna understand that this is my behavior. Now I can understand myself better and prevent it. But what happens is actually the opposite. When you label yourself as anxious or avoidant, I understand the need to want to understand your behavior and give yourself this prognosis. This is why I've gone through this pain. But what happens is that you wear that scarlet letter on your heart and it becomes an undeniable fate that you repeat from relationship to relationship, with the only thing being the same is you and your identity that gets self-perpetuated. And so the same pain occurs every single time because of that label. However, once I show you the 3 points in this video that your attachment style doesn't have to be this set thing that you can actually change, you can remove that limiting belief to step into a new self, a new identity that creates a new relationship, one of happiness and long-lasting bliss. My first relationship was so painful and so toxic. It was the reason why I decided to go into psychology to figure out that pain, why it happened to me. I needed to understand why I faced one of the most devastating moments of my life. Like most men I work with, I was that anxious, needy, nice guy. And my girlfriend, well, you're about to find out a lot about her. I remember our first fight to this day. I was more confused and shocked than my dog when I fake throw the ball to him. Just in a different reality. We were sitting in my room. She just got back from a week-long cruise. And I'd been on cruises up to that point. I knew, what teenage kids did. I mean, I was one, acting like I'm not. And so I simply asked her, I said, did anything happen weird on that ship? Did any guys hit on you? And I was pretty confident she was just gonna say, no, nothing happened, and we move on. But she said, no, and they got really upset. And something inside of me, just like this sixth sense, just knew to ask her a bit more. Something was going on. She was hiding something. I could just feel it. So I asked her again. I said, hey, it's totally okay if you did. Just tell me. And those words were like gasoline on a fire. She erupted. What do you think? You didn't believe me the first time I told you? Screw you, I'm out of here. And then just left. I was like, what the hell? What did I do wrong? What did I say? I just wanted to make sure because I wasn't sure. So she came back a day later and admitted that she did do something. She made out with a guy. Of course, that set up this cycle of me not believing her, chasing her, being anxious, pushing her away, something happening, her telling me getting anxious, and this whole cycle will repeat and repeat. My anxious annihilation led her to go to another guy's arms twice. I remember actually the second time I found out, it was the darkest, most painful moment I could experience to this day. I remember I came down to San Diego where I'm at now, which is why I think I came here down to like heal that love, that pain, heartbreak, to find it here. Anyways, I was here the whole weekend with her, and our whole relationship was based on sex. We didn't have sex one time. She was being very physically distant, but we weren't fighting. I didn't get it. Something, again, that sixth sense, that spidey sense was going off. And at the very end, I had to take an airplane in like an hour, and she had to go off to work. And I said, just please tell me, like, I need to know if you did something. I won't get mad at you, promise. And she said, I have to go to work, but I'll text it to you. And she texted it to me all right. She told me every little detail of something that happened. When one weekend she said that, well, she came home that weekend and she said she was with a friend the whole time, but she was with this other guy. I remember I called my dad crying. And it was so easy after that experience to say that, okay, I'm this anxious guy and she's the avoidant, and that's why this cycle occurred. Right? So I'm anxiously attached, right? I carried that label with me for years until I got into graduate school and I met Ashley. Now, if I thought I was anxious, Ashley was the most jealous, insecure, anxious woman I've ever met, besides myself, minus the woman part. Now, there are loads of stories I could tell you about Ashley to really show how anxious she was, but I'll tell you just one. We went out one night and I remember sitting there. We're at a table, just me and her. She didn't really like us talking with other people, and I didn't know why until this moment. But a girl walked by, right? And she looked at me and kind of just like looked at me for a couple seconds and then walked by. And I just kind of looked at her like this, didn't smile, didn't like look up and down, didn't stare for more than a couple seconds. Ash blew the up, chased after that girl, started yelling at her, wanted to fight her. Now, of course, alcohol was a little bit involved, but still, it was revealing her true colors of this anxiousness, this anxiety. Every time I tried to leave the house, she would block the way. She wouldn't let me leave. And this pattern of her being extremely anxious, what do you think it did to me? It made me avoid. The more she chased, the more I wanted to run away. You see, think of attachment styles not as boxes that you're categorized in, but as a spectrum. On one end, you have people with high anxiety, the needy, nice guy that wants closeness, that doesn't like to be left alone, that needs togetherness. And then on the other side, you have independent, avoidant person who shuts down their emotion, who doesn't share who they are. Now, you are somewhere along this spectrum. Now, my first relationship, if I'm smack dab in the middle because I am perfect, my girlfriend, first girlfriend, she was extremely avoidant. So by that comparison, when she would run away, I started to chase. So it looked like I was anxious. But then in my next relationship, when I was with Ashley, she was extremely anxious. So by the same comparison, she would chase. So you can see by this cycle that you yourself are not one attachment style or another. It is relative to who you are with and that pattern that occurs between the two of you. Because I've even seen with clients that when they do the healing and they become more secure, their person, their partner who was the avoidant then starts to chase themselves because the person became more secure in who they were. You see, this limitation is even backed by studies on attachment theory and its limitations. Children have attachments to other people other than their mothers, but they do not show this attachment the same way. For example, children may cry or follow their mother when they are getting ready to leave, but for a sibling or peer, they may just fussy or unable to sleep. Also, the attachment model behavior list only includes blatant behaviors, but there may be psychological changes during separations and reunions. You see, the relationship I had with my mom, she was more avoidant, physically cold. And then that same pattern repeated with my first girlfriend. So I had my first two models of relationships guaranteed that I was anxious. And what happened in the next relationships until I met Ashley, I thought that's who I was. And so in every relationship, I was like, I'm anxious, I'm anxious. And so I acted thus way. But I had the gift of getting with a woman that was extremely anxious to show me that that wasn't the case. The biggest epiphany I had around all of this, which I want you to think for yourself, pause the video after I tell you this, is I was sitting in a therapist's office a couple of years ago, and I was talking about all my relationship history and attachment theory with this brilliant therapist. And I was saying to her how my mom was extremely avoidant. That's why I would lean more anxious. I was an anxious type. And she said to me, she said, Josh, did you have anyone else that took care of you, that loved you growing up? And how were you with them? And I said, I did, my grandmother. And with her, she was so physically affectionate and loving. And she was like any grandma. Most grandmas, like, I come over, give me food, even if I don't ask for it, kisses all over the cheeks, smothering. And I wasn't anxious with her. And that belief, I forgot about that relationship I had with my grandma. It changed my whole perception of who I thought I was. And so for you yourself, you may have this dominant abusive relationship or this relationship that defined your attachment style in your mind, but I guarantee you there's someone else in your life that you had with that was more secure. And so when you can forgive and let go of that old attachment style and then recognize that you can be secure, that you can change who you are, and that you can alter your history by looking at these other relationships, you create a new future. And this is why to this day, I haven't had that anxious chasing with any girl since. It's more secure. Look, consistent studies even show that you can change your attachment style if you find a new secure caregiver or you work on those internal wounds that you had growing up. But why do so many of us not do this? Why do we repeat the same pattern? Well, I remember this was made evident to me with one of my first clients when I was working with drug addicts here in San Diego. This gorgeous woman, one of the most just stunning, right? But she was a drug addict, right? She abused herself and she had low sense of self-worth. Well, she met a guy in the clinic who was a very nice guy, who was kind of anxious and treated her really well. I'm talking about flowers, always there for her. And I was their therapist this to both of them individually. So I would hear both sides of it. Of course, I couldn't say anything, but I would just listen. And I remember one time she was talking to me. She said, Josh, I know he loves me. I know he treats me right, but there's something inside of me that says I don't deserve that. I always go back to my ex who physically abuses me because deep down, I think I deserve that type of behavior. I'm not worthy of his love. It is easier for you to have a behavior and a label that you're used to in your original caregiver environment because your ego says, this is what I'm used to. This is the control that even if I don't care if I'm happy. I just know that this is predictable. This is safe, even if I'm not happy. To step outside of that is unknown, even if it's better for you. And to reshape your sense of relationships, you have to let go of that past and step into a new future. And the first part of that is stripping away these labels of all these different attachment styles that you are anxious, you are avoidant, or whatever, so that you can be secure. You can change your history and your identity by stripping away those limiting beliefs you put on yourself. Now, you can only do this in your current relationship. This is a new environment that you're currently in that you can work through these past traumas and karmas with. And if you want help doing so, you can seek support down below by clicking on the link to get on a call with me and my team. I also suggest watching this video right here. It'll really help you take the first steps in changing that identity yourself. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Cheers.